Well, church, if you really believe that, would you give God some anticipatory praise? Come on, if you really believe that, give God some anticipatory praise. You ought to praise him in advance because you believe that a change is on the way. From Psalms 139, the last two verses, 23 and 24. Psalms 139, 23 and 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in thy way everlasting. We're continuing the sermon series entitled, Lord, Renovate Me. Subtopic, I can trust God. You may claim your seats in the presence of our God. Let's pray. God, as we open your word, do as well open our hearts that we might receive, believe, and obey. In Jesus' name, pray in. And all those that agree with this prayer in one united voice said, amen. What an exciting season it is in the life of our church as we have embarked upon the renovation of our church sanctuary. We recognize that not only is God seeking to renovate our sanctuary, but God is also seeking to renovate our souls. And that God is not just interested in renovating places and properties, but God is also interested in renovating people. And we recognize that the renovation that God takes us through is a renovation that starts on the inside and it manifests itself on the outside. And in light of that, you and I must embrace this particular principle if spiritual renovation is going to take place in our lives. And the principle is simply this: that God can only renovate my life to the degree that I am real about my life. God can only renovate my life to the degree of what, church? I am real about my life, which implies that you and I can no longer be pathological practitioners of self-deception. We got to stop lying to ourselves. And you recall a few weeks ago, we presented a series of lessons, or better yet, we presented a lesson that dealt with at least 5 lies that we must expel out of our lives if God is going to renovate us. Here's one of those lies: I'm good. I'm okay. That's a lie of proficiency. Or even beyond that, nobody knows. That's the lie of privacy. Or the third lie, I'm not bothering or hurting anyone. That's the lie of pacification. Or the fourth lie, this is who I am. I'm living my truth. That's the lie of personalization. Or the last lie, and the grandfather of them all, I'll do it later. That is the lie of procrastination. As long as we're constantly lying to ourselves, we will never experience the renovation power of God in our lives. And so spiritual renovation can only happen when we're real about our lives. But second of all, spiritual renovation can only happen in our lives, not just when we're real about our lives, but also when we have full and complete confidence in the renovator, the one who is seeking to renovate us. And the renovator is God himself. And the reality is simply this, that God is interested in renovating our lives. And so if indeed God is the renovator, that then implies that the spiritual renovation of our lives is not a DIY. It is not a do-it-yourself project. If you were able to renovate your life, you would have renovated your life by now. But how many of you understand that we need God to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves? We need God to renovate us. So shout it even right now, Lord, renovate me. And so it was from Psalms 139 that we began to examine this particular passage of scripture to notice some spiritual truths about God that qualifies him as the one who is the renovator in our lives. Number one, you may recall that God is the one who sees me. Say that, God sees me. That is seen from verse number 1 down to verse number 6. And we see that there's at least 5 different things as it relates to what God knows about us and what God sees about us. Here it is. A, God sees my ways. He sees my ways. He knows everything that I do. B, God sees my wanderings. He sees my wanderings. He knows everything that I think. Verse number 2, God sees verse number 3, God sees my walk everywhere that I go. Verse number 4, God sees my words, everything that I say. And verse number 5, God sees my world and he knows everything that I'll be. And in that God sees my world, he knows my past, what is behind me. He knows my future, what is before me. And God is presently engaged and involved in my life. He has his hands laid upon me. And so God knows us, here it is, through and through. He knows our thoughts, our motives, our dreams, our frustration, our fears. He knows our past, our present, and our future. God knows us through and through. And so here's the principle that we discovered last week, that if that then be true, I can trust God to renovate my life because he knows me completely. Say that after me. I can trust God to renovate my life because he knows me completely. Now, you may have the person sitting next to you, fool, but God knows you completely. The theological term that denotes that God knows us completely is simply this: God is omniscient, which simply means that he is the all-knowing God, that he encompasses all knowledge of the universe, past, present, and future. But not only does God see us, but second of all, God secures me. God secures me. He not only sees me, but he secures me. In other words, God is the one who knows everything about me, and if that then be the case, David then says that the first instinct of being fully exposed, being fully known, the first instinct is to hide, is to run, is to escape, because we fear that person who knows everything about us. And so here is what David then discovers: that if that is the case, that God knows all that there is to know about us. He knows when I'm a hypocrite. He knows when I'm telling a lie. He knows when my motives are not pure. He knows what I did last week. He knows what I did last night, because he knows everything about me. So then David then comes in verse number 7 down to verse number 12, and he poses these series of rhetorical questions. Where can I escape from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I go to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, you are there. If I live on the eastern horizon or settle on the western limits, even there your hand will lead me, your right hand will hold me. And if I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light around me will become night, even the darkness is not dark to you, and the night shines like the day, and darkness and light are alike to you. In other words, here is what David is saying: I can run. You got it, but I can't hide, because wherever I go, God is there. And so here's what he discovered: that God is with me regardless of the depth that swallow me. If I go all the way down to the abyss of hell, if I go all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, even there I'll bump into God. God is with me regardless of the distance that separates me. That if I go all the way to the eastern horizon or all the way to the western limits, even there I'll bump into God. And then he says, and God is with me regardless of the darkness that surrounds me. He says, if I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, and even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide you, but the night shines as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you. In other words, here's what David is saying: that there is no depth that I can go down that God cannot see me. There's no distance that can separate me that God is not with me. There's no darkness that can surround me that God is not present. In other words, I cannot run from God. And so here's the principle: that I can trust God to renovate my life. Why? Because because he is always present and he's always pursuing me. God is always present and he's always pursuing. So verse number 1 down to verse number 6 deals with the argument, theologically speaking, that God is omniscient. He knows all that there is. But then when you come down to verse number 7 down to verse number 12, here's what verse number 7 down to 12 says, theologically speaking, that God is omnipresent. He is simultaneously everywhere. That there is not a place, there is no spatial dimension or dominion where God is not. And then here is what then he also says, that God is qualified to renovate me because God sees me. God secures me. Here's the third one, here's the third one, here's the third one. God has shaped me. It is right there in verse number 13 down to verse number 15 it says, for you have formed me in the inner parts. You have covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, and you skillfully worked me in the lowest parts of the earth. In other words, he is saying, God, you shaped me. In other words, you are the one who created me. And there's 4 things that David says about this reality of God being the creator. That God created me supernaturally, that your birth, my birth, our existence is a result of a miracle. It is supernatural. That God created me singularly, that there's absolutely no one else in this world like you. You are one of a kind. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, do you know you're sitting by a one of a kind person? God also created me specifically. He created me, here it is, with a purpose in mind, because God never creates anything without a purpose attached to that which he created. God created you, here it is, on purpose and with a purpose. And then God created me skillfully. God was at his best when he created me. And that is why the psalmist says, I was fearfully and wonderfully made. And so I pray that you would get delivered from people having a pass-out self-esteem to you. You're waiting on people to affirm you and to approve you. and to acknowledge you. You need to wake up in the morning and say, listen, whether you like me or not, I'm good with me because God created me. God created me. And because God created you, here it is, inherently, you have value. You have value. You have value. So here's the principle. Here's the principle that I can trust God to renovate my life. Here it is, because he made me. He made me. Say that after me. I can trust God to renovate my life because he made me. So here it is. Here it is. Here it is from verse number 1 down to verse number 6. Here it is. That denotes theologically that God is omniscient, that God knows all that there is to know. From verse number 7 down to verse number 12, that argues from the perspective that God, here it is omnipresent. God is everywhere simultaneously, that there's no spatial dimension where God is not. And then when you come down from verse number 13 down to verse number 15, that denotes that God is omnipotent, because the power of God is seen in the creation of mankind, that he created us. But then here's where we stopped last weekend, and I want to pick up today. Number 4, God not only sees me, God not only secures me, God has not only shaped me, but here it is, number 4, God has a special plan for me. You don't know when to get happy. That's when you're supposed to get happy, right? That God has, watch this here, special plans for me. He has special plans for who, church? Come on, you ought to say like you really mean it. He has special plans for who? For me. Let me show it to you. Here it is. Here it is. In Psalms 139, verse 16 down to verse 18, it says, your eyes see my unformed body. This denotes that God is pro-life. That's a whole nother argument. He says that even when I was an embryo, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them even came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they will outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you. In other words, here is what David is saying. David says that the script of my life has already been written by God, and that the Lord has carefully mapped every detail that will fill my day and is ordaining everything that will happen. Here it is. And God is so much God that he can orchestrate the good and the bad, the positive and the negative, the ups and the downs of your life, the hills and the valleys of your life. And he can work it out in such a way that it brings him glory, but it gives you good. And here's what he is saying. That God has me on his mind. I wish that you'll grab a hold of this. Here's what David exclaims with excitement and with enthusiasm. How precious to me are your thoughts about me, God. Did you get that? That there's never a moment that you're not on the mind of God. You don't know when to get happy. I'm talking about the God who created this terrestrial sphere that we inhabit called Earth. I'm talking about the God who created this cosmological world with all of its planets and all of its galaxies. I'm talking about the God who made you, who made me. I'm talking about the God who scooped up the mountains and carved out the oceans. I'm talking about the God who planted all the flowers and the grass. That God, here it is, has you on his mind. Precious are my thoughts that God has towards me. David says, as a matter of fact, if I can illustrate how vast God's thoughts are about you, he says, imagine going to the beach and walking along the shifting sand of the seashore with some tweezers in your hand, picking up each grain of sand one by one. God says that's the volume of thought that God has about you. So here it is. That ought to help you, because if nobody else is thinking about you, I wish I could. If nobody else isn't thinking about you, you ought to get happy all by yourself, because I know who is. God is thinking about me. And so here it is. Here's the principle. Here's the principle. I can trust God to renovate my life because he has a special plan for my life. He has a special plan for my life. He has a special plan for my life. And so the question then must be posed, what are God's thoughts? Because here is where theologically things fall apart. Because most people suffer from a distorted view of God. You perceive God based upon, oftentimes, the relationship that you had with your earthly father. You transpose that upon your heavenly Father. And if your earthly father was absent, aloof, if your earthly father was domineering, if your earthly father was one that was abusive, you tend to transpose that same sort of attitude and mindset upon God. But here is what David says. Here's what David says. Pay close attention. He says, how precious to me are your thoughts, God. David is talking about God's thoughts towards him, which implies that God is thinking about him. And so the question must be posed, what type of thoughts does God have towards us? Here it is, jot them down. They're not in your notes. Jot them down. Here it is, that God has thoughts to perfect us. God says, I so much like you that I was willing to accept you as you are, but I'm not willing to allow you to stay that same way. No. You heard it. Come to Jesus just as I am without one plea. He said, you come just as you are, but don't expect to stay that way. You know, how sad would it be? You know, one of the most discouraging comments that a person can make. Have you ever gone to a class reunion? Have you ever gone to a family reunion and a person makes a comment such as this here? You ain't changed one bit. You have just insulted me. After these 10 years, something ought to be different about me. I mean, you ought to see something different about me, because all of the time and the space that God has had with me, something should have changed in my attitude. Something should have changed in how I walk. Something should have changed in how I talk. I'm not talking about change in the exterior. I'm talking about change in the interior. God has thoughts to perfect you. And here it is. Catch this for free. The who that you are today is not the person that God has in mind for you. I shared it with you last week that God has a better version of you in mind. And if you would just let God renovate you, God would have to reintroduce you to you. Because the you that he wants you to be is not the you that you are right now. And God says, let me introduce you to you, because this is the you that I've been trying to work on. And so this you looks so different from who you are right now, so let me reacquaint you to you. And here's what God is wanting to do. God wants to perfect us. He says, the thoughts I have towards you is not thoughts that you would stay the same. I want to perfect you. I want to change you. 1 Thessalonians 5:23, write it down. Now may the Lord, may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely. And may your whole soul, spirit, and body be kept blameless at the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. He says, I want to change your soul, your spirit, your body. I want to change you. I want to do a complete renovation. I want to do a complete makeover. I want to change you from the inside out. God has thoughts to perfect us. B, God has thoughts to pardon us. I love this. Because God is not sitting up in heaven on his throne with a billy club in his hand just waiting to clobber us. God says, no. I have precious thoughts towards you, not punitive thoughts towards you. God says, now I am so much God that even when you do disobey and when you rebel, I do have to chastise you, but I do that still out of love. I chasten those that I love. But God says, here's really my desire. My desire is not to be punitive towards you, but my desire is to pardon you. 1 John 1:8 says that if we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. But if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. God says, here's my thoughts. My thoughts is not just to perfect you, but my thoughts is to pardon you. I don't want you to live with guilt, shame, and condemnation. What happened, happened. You cannot unscramble eggs. God says, here it is, and I no longer want you to live in guilt, shame, and condemnation. God said, do you know the thoughts I have for you? I have thoughts to perfect you. That means to sanctify you, to change you. I have thoughts to pardon you. Ooh, here it is. See, I have thoughts to prosper you. You don't know when to get happy. I said God has thoughts to prosper you. Here's what Jeremiah 29 and verse 11 says. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for your welfare, to prosper you and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Don't miss that. To give you what, church? A future and a hope. I like the way Eugene Peterson puts it in the Message. Transliteration of the text. It says, I know what I'm doing. I have it all planned out. Plans to take care of you, not to abandon you. Plans to give you the future you hope for. He says, I want to renovate you, and God says, and in the process of renovating you, I have you on my mind. And I have thoughts, here it is, to perfect you, thoughts to pardon you, thoughts to prosper you. And he says this thought to prosper you is futuristic in time. To give you a hope or to give you a future you've been hoping for. Which means, here it is, that my past is just that. My what? And my present is not all that God has for me. But I live with a sense of hope. H-O-P-E. I have heavenly optimistic perceived in. I have a heavenly optimistic perceived in. My life is not based upon what's behind me. My life is not based upon what's in my present context, but my life is based upon what I'm anticipating lies in the future. God says, do you understand that I have some thoughts for you? And the issue is there's incongruency between what you think and how I think. Isaiah puts it this way, that God's thoughts are not like our thoughts. And oftentimes, not oftentimes, all of the times, our thoughts are always less than his thoughts. We limit God with our thoughts. We box God in with our limited way of thinking. God says, no, do you understand? I want to perfect you. I want to pardon you. I want to prosper you. And it's not until we have congruency as it relates to our agreement to what God thinks about us and what we start thinking about us. Okay, you're making me work harder than I wanted to. The children of Israel had gone out into the promised land, and they had witnessed that it was a land of abundance that was fruitful and fertile. Matter of fact, they came back with tangible evidence of the bounty that awaits them. Moses sends out spies. They came back with a cluster of grapes that it required 2 men to carry the cluster of grapes. But here's the problem: they had distorted vision. They went in the valley, they went into the promised land, and they say, hey, Moses, yeah, it's everything that God said it was. There's giants, and it's fortified walls. Now, think about it. They did acknowledge the fact that there were giants, and God did not disagree with them. But they came back to Moses with what? Giant grapes. To me, that implies giants eat giant grapes. But you got caught up on the giants, and you couldn't see the grapes. Better yet, you couldn't see the God who produced the grapes. He has something greater in store for you, but you're constantly looking at the problem that is before you. God says, I got the giants. The question is, do you want the grapes? Here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is. God has special, say this after me, God has special plans for me. Can I speak this passage over your life right now? Here it is, can I speak this? Eyes have not seen. This ain't for everyone. Eyes have not seen. Ears have not heard. Nor has it entered into the heart of men what God has prepared for those who love him. God has special plans for your life. Yeah, you get it. God has special plans for your life. But he says, but you got to let me renovate your life. You got to let me work on you now, because here it is. I can't take you into the promised land when you still got an Egyptian mentality. I got to work on you. I got to work on you. So then God is qualified to renovate me because God sees me, God secures me, God has shaped me, God has special plans for me. But here's the next thing, number 5, God has safeguarded me. Here it is, God has safeguarded me. Don't miss this, God has safeguarded me. In verse number 19 down to verse number 22, it seems as if there's an abrupt change in the text. Because he goes from talking about God being omnipotent, God being omniscient, God being omnipresent, talking about God has special plans, and then he comes in verse number 19 down to verse number 22, and he introduces the thought of the wicked, of bloodthirsty people who have malicious intent, those enemies who take your name in vain, people who hate you. I'm like, God, now why would you do that? Why would you introduce haters? He said, because you got to understand, they are part and parcel of the process. He says, because whenever I'm doing something great and glorious, you can always rest assured there's going to be opposition. There's going to always be some bloodthirsty, malicious intent, people with malicious intents to try to stop what I'm trying to do. And here's what David recognizes, don't miss it now, that there are wicked people around him. Can I give this to you for free? Because everybody is not excited about what God is doing in and through you. You do realize that, don't you? I mean, you do realize that. You do realize that every time God bless you and prosper you, whenever God is doing something great and glorious in your life, there's going to always be resistance and opposition and people who are bloodthirsty and who are sitting there calculating and waiting for you to trip and fall and stumble. But you ought to be able to shout that no weapon formed against me is going to prosper, because God has safeguarded me. You ought to tell your enemy, you're making a bad bet. You're making a real bad bet to try to bet against me, because what you don't understand is God is on my side, and if God be for me. But here is where it gets real touchy. Here's where, in the words of Dr. J.E. Hightower, my pastor, here's where the rubber meets the road. He said, I've said all of that from verse number 1 all the way down to verse number 22 to get to verse number 23 and 24. Because here's the converging of the angles that ascends to this apex, to this one point. And here's what David prays in Psalms 139, verse 23 and 24. Search me, O God. If you know everything about me, if there's nowhere where you're not, if you got special plans for me, you got special plans that I don't want to do anything to mess up those plans. And I know if there's anybody that can mess up the plans you have for me, it ain't them, it's me. Anybody here can testify? I mean, you sit here worrying about other folks sabotaging. That's the last group of people you need to worry about. You're more than competent. You're more than qualified to jack up your own life. He says, you see me. You know everything about me. You're omnipotent. You got all powerful. You're omnipresent. You're everywhere. You got special plans for me. You safeguarded me. He says, but God, here's what I need you to do. Here it is, verse 23 and 24. Search me. And know my heart. Try me. And know my thoughts. See if there be any wicked way in me. and lead me in thy way everlasting. He says, I need you, God, to search me. Let me tell you why, because I know me. I know me, and I know you know me. And so, God, search me. Let me help you to understand what David is saying and give you a modern illustration of that. You know, I personally, don't judge me, but I personally like cop shows. I like First 48. You do too? Yeah. Ain't nothing like it, you know. That's that little ratchetness in us, but that's all right. We like the little cop shows in First 48, you know. I like Saturday nights, and don't judge me. You know, I watch Cops. You know, it's a series of Cops that's come on, and it's interesting with some of those shows. Some of those shows, the marshals go and receive what is known as a search warrant. A search warrant. They go get a search warrant, and this search warrant gives them authorized permission and authority to enter. And to search everything. There's nothing off limits. Now, they can come in by choice or by force, but they coming. Now, they could come knock on the door saying, listen, we have a search warrant. Open the door and let us come in. And you can open the door by choice, or you can sit there and act all big and bad. And they get that ramming pole and open it up by force, but I'm coming in. And when I come in, I'm going to ransack everything in here because I'm searching, I'm looking, I'm digging, I'm plundering, I'm going through everything, trying to find what's up in here. And God is saying, here it is, David. Are you sure you want me to come in? Because I am omnipresent. I am omniscient. I am the one that can. He said, here, God, here, God. Watch what David does. David says, God, I'm giving you a search warrant. I'm giving you, God, search warrant. He said, I'm giving you a search warrant to search me. Because you know the problem with most church folks, we got too many spiritual TSA agents. We want to walk around and search everybody else's luggage. You want to go through here and talk about what she got, what he got? No. David said, Lord, I ain't worrying about them. Search me. Because the problem in my marriage is not him, it's not her, it's me. Oh, you don't want to talk about that? See, most people don't want to pray this prayer, Psalms 139, verse 23 and 24, because it's a dangerous prayer. It's a disruptive prayer. This prayer would disrupt your life. It's a daring prayer. You for real, you want God to do that? God says, he said, give me the search warrant. He said, now it's better for you to go on and give me the search warrant so I can deal with what I find, because whatever I find, I can fix. But if you don't give me the search warrant, you're going to force me to now cause you to have to go through public exposure. Now he said, now we can either handle this one or two ways. Private or publicly. Now, I don't know about you. I ain't all interested in that public stuff. Just, Lord, let's just go and deal with this thing privately. You know, the world done changed. There's this thing called the internet and social media. He says, oh, I can't even finish this. He says, search. I'm giving you a search warrant, Lord. Search. Not my spouse. They got this stuff, but I sure enough got mine. Search. He says, God, I'm giving you permission to go down into the basement of my life and into the attic of my mind. Pull out that stuff I've been trying to hide. That stuff I don't want nobody to know about me. Search my heart. Know my thoughts. Now, you do understand that if you mess around and give God this search warrant, oh, he's going to do it. And not only is he going to do it, but watch this. He's going to discover something. You know, look down your road. Look down your road real quick. Just look down your entire road. Everybody on that road got something. Look in the other direction. Everybody on that other side got something too. We all got something in the closet. There's a whole lot of closet Christians. In church on Sunday, blue flame by Saturday. A whole lot of... Did I say that? Yeah, no. Oh, you don't want to be 100. God already. You do understand? He saw you at blue flame. God says, I'm everywhere. He said, I can renovate you if you just be 100 with me. I don't have time to unpack verse 23 and 24. I'm gonna do that next week. I'm gonna do it next week. I'm doing it next week. I just want us this week. Let's go on and work on the search warrant. Just say, Lord, I ought to know you know. I'm just giving you authority to go on and ransack my life. That's it. I promise you, I'm going to find something. See, that's why as your pastor, I don't even try to act like I'm all holy and all that stuff. I get so sick and tired of these preachers act like they don't got nothing. And I'm going to be honest, I share with you a detriment to the kingdom. You're a real detriment to the kingdom. Because here's the problem with most church folks and unchurched folks. Listen to me. They're not tripped up per se just by the church person who's honest, that can say, I got some stuff. They're not tripped up when people are like Paul that's able to say, I have not apprehended yet. I haven't made it yet. I'm still pressing. I'm still pressing. I'm not there yet. I'm still pressing. I haven't made it to that mark. I'm still pressing. See, they got a problem with that church person who lie and act like they don't got nothing. And then when they get out, they're like, oh, you? That's why I don't do church. Because y'all be lying. As opposed to just saying, you know what? I'm your pastor. I'm Craig, for real. I don't have it all together. No. I want you to know that, for real. I want you to know this. I don't have it all together. No. I want you to hear me for it. He's still working on me. Oh yeah, no, he's still working on me. I mean, I'm I still got some ways about me. I still, if you catch me on the wrong day, I snap on you. I don't like that about me. I'm just being honest with you. See, you sitting there like, I can't believe you're saying that. No, I'm being 100. I'm not quite there where you talk about, if one person hit you on one cheek, turn the other cheek. No, I'm gonna turn your cheek probably right now. I ain't there just yet. Can I just? No. See, you don't know what to do with this sermon. I'm like, let me tell you what David could have done. David could have kept wearing his royal robe, kept walking around Jerusalem acting like he had everything together. But God says, no, I don't look at the outward appearance, because outwardly, let me tell you the problem with most of us, we have what is known as behavior modification. We are professional church folks. We know how to, and still got hate and greed and covetousness in our heart. The Lord says, he said, man looks at the outer appearance. God says, I don't even pay attention to that foolishness because I know what's in you. He said, you just like the Pharisees. You don't wash the outside of the tomb, but inside you're full of dead man bones. He says, I can work with you if you just be 100 with me. So I just tell the Lord, here I am. Work on me. May y'all come next Sunday. I'm going to unpack verse 23 and 24. Can we pray this prayer right now? Close your eyes. Let's pray right now. Repeat this prayer after me. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in thy way everlasting. Say it again. Lord, renovate me from the inside out. Say it again. Lord, I thank you that I'm on your mind and on your heart. Thank you that you have thoughts to perfect me, pardon me, and prosper me if I be real with you. In Jesus' name. Hey, let's rest upon our feet, everyone, everywhere. Our music ministry is preparing to lead us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. No one is leaving unless you're coming this way. God cannot renovate you if you don't have a relationship with him. So if you're in this auditorium, if you're in this sacred space right now, you've yet to say yes to the Lord, you've yet to invite him into your heart to reside in your life, to preside, why not come right now? I want you to hear me very clearly. This church is made up of a bunch of people that God has just renovated, that God is working on. We'd love to have you among us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, you're not here by accident, you're not here by coincidence, but you're here by divine providence. Would you come right now? I'm standing here waiting on you. Heaven is ready to rejoice over your decision. Would you come right now? Our music ministry. All of these blessings. Give me a clean heart. One last time. Lord, give me a clean heart. Give me a clean heart. So I might serve thee, Lord. Lord, be my so that I may be used by thee. So, beloved of God, as we're preparing to depart from this place, I want to encourage you to make sure you go to the sanctuary. Reverend Kathy Flower is going to lead you to the sanctuary. Take a brief moment to write down a prayer, write down the name of a person that's left a spiritual mark upon your life, a person that you're praying for. Write down a passage of scripture or a promise from the Word of God that you're standing on, that you're believing that God will fulfill in your life. I'm going to ask that as you go into the sanctuary that you would observe that time in silence. We want you to go in silently, not talking to each other. Go in and write that prayer down, that person's name down. Write down, of course, that passage of scripture. And as soon as you finish writing those items down, I need you to go right to your car and go home. Because we got another crowd coming in a few minutes. I need you to do that. Amen. Hey, Bible study has been postponed for this Wednesday. We're going to resume on the following Wednesday. Amen. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May he bless your down city and your uprising. Be blessed today, my brother. Be blessed, my sister. In Jesus' name, be blessed. Amen.